Hello YouTube, hope all is well. Today I wanted to speak on some key points of how to make your magic and your magical lifestyle more practical. We have the problem of having a lot of armchair magicians, meaning that all we do is discuss and debate and discuss and read and discuss and debate some more, and we don't practice magic. So how do you ground your magic into your daily life? Okay, so I've got a couple ideas. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. So I was speaking the other day to one of my students, and I brought up the Druid triad of earth, sea, and sky. He brought up a very valid question. Well, earth, is earth, sky is air, sea is water, amongst many things, the elemental correspondence. Where's the fire? And I said that's very unique because the Druids did have the idea of earth, air, water, and fire, but fire dwelt in the human being. So we bring the fire elements to the rest of creation, right? And this parallels a lot with things that you'll find in Judeo-Christianity and Luciferian and some other practices, particularly practices of the East with Hindu. For instance, Kundalini Yoga and Shakti. Shakti is always envisioned as a fire, like electricity or a fire, right? Because we have the fire within us, right? And there's so many, I can go on lecture about that, but I'll try to keep this succinct. So, where is the origin of this fire? The origin of this fire is the solar current, okay? When we speak of the soul, that's taken, S-O-U-L, that's taken from the Latin sol, S-O-L, which is the same root as solar, so the sun, okay? You might have watched Zeitgeist, though I don't really agree with the intention behind that movie. There's some great things you can take away from the movie, and the meaning of that is if you research the creators of Zeitgeist, the parallel they make for modern religions being Egyptian religions and solar deities is not to clue you into the great mysteries of the Egyptians and the Greeks. It's to make a mockery of religion and say, well, if Christianity's not real and it's just based off of solar deities, our dumb ancestors worship the sun, so therefore become atheists. And they go on a whole big thing on their website about millions of dollars would be saved because priests would be taxed and all the problems with religion, and there'd be no war and some utopian nonsense. I'm going to tell you straight up, even if we become some enlightened society with no organized religion, we're still going to fight over resources, over land, over political systems, over ideology. Mankind has been fighting since we came out of the cave. So it's just inherent in us, like many other animals do, because we are animals. We're just a higher evolution of animals. We're very territorial, we're very warlike, we're very competitive, right? It's just a fact. So there's not going to be any magical solution to that. With that said, they bring up the point that most of the Western world is based off of a solar adoration, meaning worship of the sun, which is true. I believe that in a lot of our environmental movements, we talk about the water, which we do need clean water. We talk about recycling so we don't destroy the plants and the animals, which I totally agree with, and I believe we need to reverse deforestation. Totally believe in that. But what we don't understand is the entire planet is dependent on sunlight. So if there was an omnipotent source of all of energy, it would quite practically be the sun. So there's nothing wrong with solar adoration. That's a fact. I mean, you can say that our ancestors were dumb and they were afraid of the thunderclaps and they worshiped the sun and scared of the moon, but science has been showing us and biology that we are in sync with the sun and the moon, and every time human society has gotten out of being in sync with that, it's been disastrous. So even if it's a pseudo-spirituality, it still serves its purpose as a spirituality, right? Nowadays, a lot of people like to say they're spiritual and not religious. I understand that, but I don't think people understand what they're saying. Because if you're truly spiritual and you're after gnosis and not organized religions with thou shalt and thou shalt not, you would probably it would do you a great service to look into solar adoration. Okay, so with that said, soul is the sun and the solar gnosis, the understanding of what the sun means. Okay, that brings us to the idea of, and I'm taking this from Thelema because Thelema is very solar based and very practical application of magic theory, right? So some of this is going to come from Thelema. The idea of aeons, right? Which aeons just mean a period of time. You could look at the zodiac wheel as aeons. Case in point, they pull out in Zeitgeist, the movie, that the reason they blow the ram's horn in the Jewish faith for some holidays is because Moses showed up in the time of Aries the ram. The reason why the fish was the early sign of Christianity and a lot of its principles was because Jesus showed up in the time of Pisces. He was the incarnation of the meaning behind Pisces, right? So a lot of these religions actually have a planetary alignment, but more importantly, because they affect all of humanity and the values and the core beliefs that they have come from one of the houses of the zodiac. So they're an embodiment of a particular house of the zodiac. So as the solar, as the sun has went through the wheel, it's affected humanity by giving it religions that were themed on the different parts of the zodiac. Okay. So what were the aeons? Aleister Crowley said that there were 3 aeons. I'm trying to adjust this here. There was the aeon of the mother, there was the aeon of the father, which we came out of, and there's the aeon of the son, okay? The aeon of the mother was when we were nature-based. That Mother Earth was nature. That's why with the resurgence of paganism and a lot of nature activism, people are getting in tune with the idea of a feminine, the goddess, because nature birthed us just like the mother births the child, right? But that aeon is done. It's finished. We moved on to the solar aeon, which was the aeon of God in the masculine sense, like a lot of the Judeo-Christianity and Islam and patriarchal influence of spirituality came from a good place originally. But the issue with that is that the solar father aeon of time has passed. Just like the mother passed, the father passed. So now we're in the aeon of Horus, and if you know anything about Egyptian mythology, Horus was not only a sun god, but he was the son of Isis and Osiris. So what does that mean, right? We went from Mother Nature, to Father God, to now Son Man. That's why Jesus was called, one of his many titles was Son of Man. And Son of Man is repeated throughout scriptures in many, many terms. It's a title, it's not an individual. Okay? So think of it less of S-O-N of man and think of it like S-U-N of man, okay? Meaning that now we have everything in this aeon that we as man can be gods, okay? That we don't need a father figure to tell us what we can do and what we can't do, and that we have to go run and hide behind when we get in trouble. We've matured. Just like when you mature, you graduate high school, you graduate college, and at least in most cultures, there's supposed to be some sense of independence, and you go on and then you start the cycle again with your family, right? But the idea of good parenting is the mother nurtured you and the father gave you guidance to where you can stand on your own 2 feet as a grown-up. You have every faculty that you need, every skill set you need to be independent. Now, I know that's going to hit people kind of in their left ear a little bit because we have the hashtag adulting going around, which is an interesting and brand new phenomenon with this generation. If anything, generations of the old tried to adult before they were ready to adult. It was an aspiration. You wanted to be seen as a grown man or a grown woman. Now, you know, people will pay their bills and be upset about it and say hashtag adulting, which for generations we were upset about paying our bills. But that's the natural cycle of things. You're supposed to mature. Animals are supposed to mature. That's what you're supposed to be independent. That's how you keep the species going. I don't know if I can adjust this. I think I can. Let me see here. Because it keeps slipping, and I don't know why it keeps slipping down. All my videos are going to be rough at the beginning, right? I've only got 3 on YouTube, but as I get better with it, it'll be more clean and polished, right? But I hope you understand what I'm saying here, even if I don't have special effects and I have to talk to the camera occasionally, okay? I'm trying to do this more like a kind of fireplace conversation, like they used to have when they had the radio shows where you could sit around with your family and have a nice kind of casual conversation, a personable conversation. That's my approach with this. So once again, forgive me if I don't have all the bells and whistles. So we're now in the aeon of the sun, right? Which means that we have all the skill set we need to manifest and take care of ourselves and of nature, right? We learned from the eon of the father the godly attributes, right? And we learned from the eon of the mother then how to take care of nature. Now we need to combine those two. So we have to be responsible, right? We have to be responsible for the planet, and we have to be responsible for our own self-actualization and our own control over our environment. But the two can match perfectly together. They match. We don't have to give up our modern technologies and our evolution as a society in order to save the planet from destruction of the ecosystem. We can do both. It's sustainable. Now, are we going to be mature enough to do both? That has yet to be seen, but it's completely within our capabilities to. And if we go on to explore other planets, we're going to need to figure out how to maintain our own planet, or else we'll go from planet to planet destroying planets, and we'll eventually run out of planets, right? And there's plenty of sci-fi movies that talk about that, and the threat of an alien race who goes to each planet, uses up all its resources, and then moves to the next planet. That's been the plot of many, many movies, right? So that's a warning to us that we need to figure it out. Before we expand out into the stars and start new colonies on Mars or whatever solar system, we need to figure out this ecology thing here and our home planet, so we don't have the same mistakes in the next planet, okay? But it's completely doable. We can do both. If we mature ourselves and we take on the position in this new aeon that we're supposed to take on, then we can expand through the galaxy and maintain the ecosystem on any planet we have, and not overpopulate and give us somewhere to go. It's not a zero-sum game. You know, when they talk about population control and some nefarious people say, well, there only should be X amount of people on the earth. No, we have the technology to go to other planets. So we have some breathing room as a human species, but we have to correct the methodology of ecology on this planet before we go and ruin another planet, right? And who knows, they may have resources there we've never heard of. So it's completely doable, okay? Try not to go on too many tangents. Also, when it comes to what Mother Nature means, a Mother Aeon, women, their natural energy is magnetic, and men are electric, right? So electromagnetism is when you put those two together, which you'll notice if you research Shiva and Shakti, if you know anything about Kundalini Yoga, even in Wicca and some of the other forms of magic, they talk about that, about the two polarities coming together and becoming like a spiritual battery, right? So we, as all beings in the new aeon, need to work on that in ourselves so we can all be power cells. I like to look at it like our technology with solar energy, right? So that we're not plugged in and we're not at the whim of somebody else at the power station shutting us down, which is what mainstream religion has done for many years on a spiritual level, if I can make that metaphor. But if you have a solar panel, you know you're off the grid. You're independent. You have a renewable resource, and as long as you can utilize that energy, you're not paying a bill to somebody else. They can't shut you off. They can't tell you what you can do because nobody owns the sun, and that's the beautiful thing of it, right? So we become our own independent sources of energy. Now, how do we do that? How do we get this whole magic thing out of theory and into practice? By using that same principle I'm talking about the fire, about the solar logos, the solar gnosis. That's very easy, right? So there were 3 things that Thelema, that Aleister Crowley suggested that we use to build our solar body. And that's meditation, yoga, and magic, okay? But how do those go together? Why am I going to do that? How does meditating and calming my mind have anything to do with magic, and how does magic have anything to do with some weird stretches you do? Okay? Real simple. Real simple. Meditation, A, clears the mind, so you're not thinking of your grocery list and worrying about your test that you have to take or what your boss thinks, okay? Because you can't do anything if you're thinking about 10 other things, right? Then the next level of meditation is focus, which you need focus if you're going to use magic, because magic is the art and science of making reality conform to will. If you can't focus and you have spiritual ADD, right, or physical ADD, which is a real pandemic nowadays, to use that term, I think, authentically. If you can't focus your mind, then you can't focus on your will, which is your destiny, and you can't focus on getting what you want and making a ritual to make that manifest. So those two things have to go hand in hand. Okay? Most people get that. Most even Wicca 101 books will tell you that. Now, how many of the people actually practice that? I don't know. And how many people who practice meditation and don't go on to do magic, then you're just robbing yourself of the whole reason of meditation. And even in the East, that's why Taoism has magic, Buddhism has magic. These people meditate all the time. And when they're not meditating, they're usually doing some kind of magic, right? Because that's what meditation was actually meant for. Meditation isn't a standalone practice. Now, where yoga comes in is magic is using your energy to focus, but you have to have a renewable battery. You have to create a vessel for that energy. A lot of us feel lethargic. A lot of us are on medications. A lot of us are insomniacs. Like, we don't have the energy, right? And this pandemic has done nothing but drain our batteries, right? We're so used to laying around, and now that people are going back to work, they're not in the rhythm of things anymore, okay? The yogic practice, though it does help with focus and there's many medical benefits, the whole point of yoga originally in India was to build your body into a powerhouse. It's to build your body into a battery, to a renewable energy source. And that energy is what's used in magic, right? So it's a little triune, it's a triangle. Focus and meditation, creating the energy body through yoga, and then at the point of that, using magic to affect your will on the universe. That's why those three simple things, three simple practices, right, go together so well. And it gets you more into a body feel, so you're less cerebral and less reading and studying and more physically doing something, right? And I'm telling you, if you do this, everybody who's more scholarly than I am will tell you that your rituals will take on a whole new level. I understand. I'm very practical about my magic. I understand that a lot of people don't practice ritual as often, or don't practice ritual at all because they have and they didn't really get anything out of it, which is fair enough to say. But if you don't build the energy in you, then you're not going to get anything out of it, right? It's like having a car and you have no gasoline. The car's not going to go anywhere, right? Or I probably make a better analogy. No oil, right? You can burn out your engine with no oil because the car needs gas and it needs oil. So if you've been driving and you ran out of oil, you end up on the side of the road. And people don't even think about that who aren't, very automotive minded. But oil is as important as the car is, as the gasoline is to the car, right? Yoga is hugely important, right? You don't feel your chakras, you don't feel the energy, the tingling, the kundalini, the energy if you don't practice yoga. But now you take that energy and don't just store up the energy in your battery and you do a yoga section and you go home and do whatever, and the next day you do a yoga section. That too, that's just like meditation. Sitting there focusing and clearing the mind for no purpose is useless. Building up energy and then not using it for anything is not what yoga was created for. It does have health benefits, just like there's medical benefits to meditation. They've proven that. Lowers blood pressure, calms you down. Yes, those are all side benefits. What they were meant to do was to accumulate in magic, to create your will in the universe, right? And when I say will, I mean the thelemic version of will, like your actual destiny, not your wants, needs, and desires, what you're actually put on this planet to do, right? And if you don't know what that is, that's why meditation is brilliant, because you calm the mind and you focus on it, and eventually your inner voice will tell you, I was meant to do this, right? So then yoga will build the energy in your body, and then through magic, you can systematically systematically attract your destiny. Let me say it like that. Or go out after your destiny. I don't really like to say law of attraction, because a lot of people think that you can just sit back and things will just happen to you. That's not how the universe was created. Look around nature. That's another key point that the Druids brought up, that we need to understand we're not outside of nature. Human beings are a part of nature. So when you see how things work in nature, that's how they work with us. We're not outside of it. There's nothing supernatural. That's what it means, outside of nature. We're all within nature, including magic. Magic is not supernatural. So by building your energy, and you'll notice when I'm getting back to the solar energy that a lot of sun salutation, a lot of the things in yoga talk about solar, talk about sun energy, sun energy, sun energy, sun energy. Because the ancients knew that that was where mankind was destined to draw its energy from, right? We're essentially solar. That's where your soul comes from. You know what I mean? That's why we have solar. There is correspondences with the moon, which would be a different video, but the core energy needs to be solar. That's why even with Wicca, as much as you think of witches joining at the Espit and full moon rituals, the 8 major holidays of the year are all solar festivals, because your solar energy is going to be your battery. That's what's going to keep you going. That's what's going to help you manifest. That's going to like vitalize you, your vitality, your energy. The ancients always talk about vitality. Most of us don't have any vitality. That's literally like your, think of like if you're playing a video game and you only have so many lives, your vitality, every time you get hit, your vitality goes down. That's how we are. So if that makes it easier to think in that kind of metaphor. So yoga physically gets you into it, right? And if you can maintain a yoga practice, then doing physical ritual will be easy breezy for you. We're very stagnant and we sit at our desks all day. So, you know, we say at lunch hour, boy, I'm going to go home, I'm going to do this full moon ritual, but we're so used to not moving that when we finally get home, we eat, and then they're like, oh, let my food digest, and then we'll like watch some TV, and they're like, I'm going to do this, and then by the time you know it, you're already passed out asleep and you miss the ritual, right? That's just a thing that happens. That's a thing that happens. I empathize, but I don't sympathize. You need to put in the work, okay? This magic is a great gift. The ancients are telling you you have the ability to control destiny to at least a certain point, and then you just say, it's too much of a hassle. I can't be bothered. Okay, well then you get what you deserve, right? There's really not a lot of negotiation on whether or not yoga and meditation and magic are keys, because you'll find it in so many different traditions throughout the world, both east and west. So please, like I've always said before, please research everything I tell you. However, there's a nuance of this generation that says, yeah, well, it doesn't resonate with me, or I can do my own thing. Okay, well, then you're going to get crap results. So I'm just not trying to be standoffish. I'm just telling you the truth, right? And that's one thing I was going to do with this particular channel. I'm going to give you the raw, uncut, official facts of magic, right? I'm not saying I'm the only path of magic. There are other paths of magic, but I wholeheartedly disagree with the idea or concept that magic is done however you want to do it. You know, however you want to do it. I understand that's the zeitgeist of the era, but when it comes to magic, that's nonsense, because we're going from past records, and the past records don't let you do that, right? You dedicate yourself. Another thing too, if you're not a huge yoga fan, or if you want to supplement your yoga practice, because most of us do yoga and then it's like, okay, what else? Qigong works really well with that. Martial arts really work with that, because if you go to the Taoist source of martial arts, it's about creating the alchemic sorcerer's stone within you, the golden elixir, which is vitality. And Taoist priests, if you study them, they do practice magic, they do spells, they do candle work, they do incense magic, they do all that stuff. And they project their energy out into that. So martial arts was not just meant as a self-defense technique, it was to build the chi in that. More so the Chinese and the Japanese, but you can probably trace back the origins of almost every style, with rare exceptions, that they have that concept. So styles like Krav Maga are not going to be that. It's functional fighting, is created by the Israeli soldiers. It wasn't anything about Qigong or any of that nonsense. Thai kickboxing is the same way. I don't think they have any, and I might be wrong. So, but like Tai Chi, all the internal arts, He Xing, Xing Yi, karate, Okinawan karate, a lot of those ninjutsu, they all talk about spirit and that kind of essence. And in the West, we kind of go over that and we just want to learn how to punch and kick, but you're doing yourself a great disservice. But even through punching and kicking and learning sword styles, right, it'll help you get into the flow, into the Tao of the universe, right? And the Tao is that solar logos, because the sun lightens everything. If we had no sun, all the crops would fail, all the plants would die. It would be a second ice age. It would affect absolutely everybody. Vegans, meat eaters, everybody. It would ruin everything. So the sun is our closest concept, physical, scientific idea of God. You know what I mean? It's a relative term, which I'll always say that. We're gods to ants, right? So the sun and the solar deities are gods to us because they're on a higher level of, like, let's say, the food chain. You know what I mean? A higher level of evolution. But just like the sun and just like solar power, everybody can pull that down. That's something that's unique to us, not just like some countries where they only have hydroelectric and other countries where they don't have infrastructure for regular electricity or, you know, the grid or any of that kind of stuff, right? You can be spiritually off the grid. But if you're off the grid spiritually, meaning you've left organized religion and you're just not feeling anything, you're doing magic or you're talking about magic or you're attracted to the concepts, but you're not feeling it, I would highly recommend that you start a sun focused yoga routine, right? And guided meditations, and work with the solar current, because then you're going to feel more energized and you're going to feel your magic is just going to manifest so much quicker. You're really going to get that feel. That's why it's that physical, you know what I mean? Like when you do this and you have that feeling, that tingly feeling, right? And then your magic will project more and you'll see more faster results, and then you'll kind of stay on your path. And it's super easy. There are so many resources now. Back when Aleister Crowley was writing in the early 1900s, barely anybody did yoga from the West, and you had to go to India and like go to Nepal on the back of a camel and do all this kind of stuff. Now there's a plethora of yoga studios. There's a plethora of self-paced yoga videos on YouTube for free. There's Gaia channel, has tons and tons of yoga. It's absolutely everywhere. We're inundated with yoga everywhere. So we have more resources available to the common man than we've ever had before. Same thing with guided meditations. There's meditations on everything. Chakras, anything you can imagine, you can probably find from YouTube, right? But consistency here is the key, okay? So to recap, why solar energy? Why solar logos? Because it's the most abundant. It's available to everybody. It's the active principle of yin and yang, right? So we talk about activism. We want to save the planet. We want to be political activists. Well, you got to have some gas in the tank. That solar energy is the active principle. The lunar principle is the receptive principle, right? And solar energy is renewable, both with, in a real sense of the word, and also in the sense of a lot of these rituals will teach you how to recharge your battery, like the middle pillar. So they're created in a way that you can constantly recharge your battery. Use it, recharge your battery. Very renewable. You're constantly, every day you see the sun, right? The moon, like with the Espits, every full moon, so you got to wait 1 month, right? And a new moon, and then the different moons have different energies, right? So that's like only recharging your cell phone once a month, right? I hope you have a good battery life. So that's why they always teach, also, most magical systems teach solar first, so that you have a constant stream of energy, so you're not relying on the lunar current that only happens once a month. But then you get that extra every once a month. You get what I'm saying? Because the moon cycle is not as consistent as the sun cycle is, right? So that's why it's sun first, then lunar, not the other way around, right? All right, so I didn't get to the quotes that I wanted to in this book, but that might be for another YouTube video. So I'm going to end this one here. Light and love to y'all. Any questions or comments, get at me. All right.